A homeless man sits in the middle of a busy station and is begging passersby for money. As he is doing so, he watches a stranger suddenly appear at a train station, as if out of thin air. When the strange man intervenes to help a woman who's just been robbed, the police wrongly assume he's the culprit.
Here.
Hold it right there.
What happened?
Step away from her.
The homeless man quickly clears things up, explaining the real attackers have already fled.
This is Romano, robbery and assault victim with facial wound at East 42nd entrance.
When questioned, the man says he's not traveling anymore and didn't arrive by train. Asked to remove his sunglasses, he refuses, claiming the brightness of the planet bothers him.
Could you remove your sunglasses for me, please?
Well, I'd rather not.
His odd behavior leads officers to believe he might be mentally unstable, so they put him in handcuffs and they escort him to their car.
I have to ask you to come with us, sir.
Of course.
One of the officers asks the homeless man which gate he came from, but the homeless man mentions that he comes out of nowhere.
Did you see this fella come out of a gate?
Didn't come from no gate.
At the Psychiatric Institute of Manhattan, Dr. Mark Powell listens to a patient named Ernie, who is convinced that stepping outside will expose him to deadly germs. He repeatedly warns the doctor about this. Dr. Mark closes the window and Ernie takes off his mask. Then he keeps blabbering about being affected by the surroundings.
The cafeteria serves lukewarm food full of germs. You really need to do something about that.
After the session, Mark is informed by his secretary, Joyce, that a new case has come in, one transferred from another hospital.
And Dr. Chakraborty, transfer from Bellevue he wants you to take a look at.
Dr. Chakraborty briefs Mark on the patient, explaining that the man insists he's from another planet.
He claims to be not human. Visitor from another planet.
He shows no signs of typical brain disorders and remains firm in his belief. Despite being treated with medication called Thorazine for weeks, the patient's delusion has persisted.
His amnesia and his delusion have persisted.
Mark eventually meets the man, Prot, who claims to be from a planet called K-PAX, located in the Lyra constellation, which is 1,000 light years away from Earth.
If you know why you're here.
Of course. You think I'm crazy.
He explains that he traveled here using light as a means of transport, and that this isn't his first visit to Earth.
Well, I've been here many times before.
Dr. Mark mentions that nothing can travel faster than light and bases this claim on Einstein. But Prot insists they misunderstood Einstein, and they can travel even faster than light. They are traveling at tachyon speed.
Einstein said nothing about entities already traveling at the speed of light or faster.
Dr. Mark confusedly asks how he is talking English fine, but Prot tells him English is a really easy language to learn.
You should try speaking hakso neat eh.
When asked how he looks like a human, Prot explains that he looks like a human on Earth and a K-PAX and in K-PAX.
On your planet, I look like you. On K-PAX, I look like a K-PAXian.
Dr. Mark asks why he travels to Earth, and he simply tells him that it is curiosity about a planet that is class BA-3. Dr. Mark asks what BA-3 is, and Prot reveals it means a planet still in an early stage of evolution.
Class BA-3?
Early stage of evolution.
Later, another patient, Howie, asks Prot about his home. Prot describes K-PAX as a world larger than Earth, surrounded by 7 purple moons.
What sort of place is it?
K-PAX is bigger than your planet.
He says the sight of its 2 suns, K-Mon and K-Ril, aligning is especially beautiful. As he is talking, Ernie listens, interested.
Those are our 2 sons, what you would call Agape and Satori.
At home, Mark's wife Rachel talks about possibly returning to her teaching job and mentions looking into after-school care.
I spoke with Natalie about going into the after-school program next year.
She jokingly says something absurd to test if Mark is paying attention, but is clearly disappointed when he admits he wasn't.
This morning my head fell off, but I was able to sew it back on with dental floss.
Back at work, Mark shares a tape session with his colleagues. In the recording, Prot says he arrived on Earth 4 years and 9 months ago, and that he's 337 years old.
In Earth terms, 337 years old.
The other doctors conclude he must be delusional and suggest medication, but Mark holds off, wanting a clearer picture before taking that step.
Well, how come he didn't respond to the Haldol?
Haldol can make you more psychotic.
The other doctors believe that Prot is delusional and made fun of Mark for even suggesting the possibility of Prot being right. In a later session, Mark tries to ask Prot about his childhood, but Prot shifts the discussion to how reproduction works on K-PAX. He describes it as a painful and unpleasant process, one they approach with caution.
But unlike you humans, the reproductive process is quite unpleasant for us.
Mid-session, Prot starts writing rapidly, saying he just remembered something important to add to his report. Apparently, it's customary on his planet to document the people and places they encounter.
What are you doing?
Well, you just reminded me of something I want to include in my report.
Later that day, Prot notices a patient named Bess, who ignores him completely. Ernie explains that Bess doesn't speak because she's convinced smoke will pour out of her mouth if she does. He adds that she's been at the hospital since childhood for allegedly setting her house on fire, but Howie jumps in, clarifying it was actually an electrical accident. Prot's focus soon shifts to Doris, a reclusive patient who refuses to leave her room. When a nurse attempts to coax her out for a meal, she responds by flinging the tray at him. Curious, Prot peers into her room and sees a dinner table set for two. He asks if he can join her and she smiles at him, saying that she was not expecting a gentleman. She gets up and starts to fix herself up.
You have a place set for two?
Prot asks about the table being set for two and asks if she is waiting for someone. Doris tells him she's been waiting for someone for over a decade. Some would say she's delusional, but to her, it's a beautiful act of hope. Something like watching a long sunset.
I prefer to call it romantic.
Prot replies that on K-PAX, they have sunsets too. Their twin suns rise together only once every 2 centuries, and it is a beautiful sight.
Now that is quite a sight.
Meanwhile, Dr. Chakraborty updates Mark with something unusual. Prot has heightened light sensitivity and can detect ultraviolet rays.
He can detect light at a wavelength of up to 300 to 400 angstroms.
Prot apparently said Earth's twilight resembles the light on K-PAX, which helps explain his aversion to brightness. In their next session, Mark dims the room by shutting the blinds. For the first time, Prot removes his sunglasses, noting the lighting feels familiar, like home.
Prot? I was hoping you'd tell me more about home.
Mark asks about Prot's family, but Prot explains that life on K-PAX is nothing like Earth. There are no families in the traditional sense. Children are raised communally, not by birth parents. When asked about marriage, Prot grows irritated. He insists they don't have such constructs, no spouses, no government, no punishment systems.
We do not have marriage on K-PAX. There are no wives. There are no husbands.
According to Prot, they've evolved beyond the need for these things. When Mark presses further about justice, Prot dismisses Earth's systems as primitive, particularly the idea of retribution, which he sees as a failed moral code.
Sometimes it's hard to imagine how you've made it this far.
At a backyard gathering, Mark's sister Abby suggests he should reconnect with his son, Michael. Rachel brings up inviting Michael for Christmas, but Mark doubts he'll show. Michael usually spends the holidays with his mother.
He spends Christmas with his mother.
Mark then remembers that Abby's husband, Steve, is an astronomer and asks for help to challenge Prot's story.
So tell me about this patient of yours.
Well,
Steve doesn't believe him and keeps making fun of Prot, but Mark insists that Prot is convincing.
No, he's very convincing.
Finally, Steve agrees and promises to provide some space-related questions that only a true expert could answer.
I can give you a whole list of questions to ask your fellow.
Wonderful.
Soon after, a nurse alerts Mark to Howie, who's been sitting silently by the window. When Mark checks on him, Howie explains he's searching for the blue bird of happiness, one of 3 things Prot asked him to find to help with his healing.
Prot told me to find the blue bird of happiness.
Out in the garden, Prot is encouraging Ernie to stop worrying about germs he can't see.
Good to see you outside, Ernie.
Thank you.
Later, Mark reprimands Prot for interfering with treatment. He tells him that it is not his job to cure any of the patients.
On this planet, I'm a doctor, you're a patient.
Hearing this, Prot calmly turns the question back on him, asking why Mark hasn't managed to help them. Then, as if to change the subject, he hands over a sheet filled with answers to Steve's astronomy questions.
To the questions you asked me?
That evening, Steve contacts Mark, stunned. The answers are spot on, with information so obscure that only a handful of astrophysicists could know it. Mark asks if there is a missing astrophysicist, but Steve tells him he doesn't know of such reports.
Tell me, do you know of any missing astrophysicists?
Mark gets engulfed in Prot's case, even taking the recordings home to study them. He grows frustrated at how little progress he is making. That evening, Mark brings Prot to the observatory. After seeing Prot's impressive astronomical knowledge, Steve's colleagues grow eager to meet him. He comes here for a session with the astrophysicists. When they all introduce themselves as doctors, he is amazed by the number of doctors Earth have.
How many doctors are there on this planet?
Once inside, they ask about the light travel he talks of, but Prot tells them he can't tell them that because they will blow up themselves or someone else.
If I told you, you'd blow yourselves up. Or worse, someone else.
When they ask how he gained the knowledge of such a planetary system, Prot insists that it is common knowledge in K-PAX.
Professor, where I come from, that's common knowledge.
They show him a detailed image of the Lyra constellation and ask him to map the orbit of his supposed home planet. Prot draws a complete diagram, including precise equations.
I think that's right.
The scientists double-check his work and are stunned. It accurately explains unusual behavior in a nearby binary star system. They were unable to explain the perturbations they have been seeing in the rotation pattern of your binary star until this moment. The professor, stunned, asks how he knows that, but Prot simply explains everyone, including kids, knows this in K-PAX.
Just as every child on Earth knows that your planet revolves around your sun.
After this, Mark asks Steve what happened there, but Steve is unable to explain this. Mark mentions there are savants who have painted flawless copies of Rembrandt but can't even remember their names. But Steve is already inclined to believe Prot, and simply tells Mark he doesn't know what to believe.
I don't know what I believe, Mark, but I know what I saw.
The next morning, Howie notices a bluebird outside and excitedly points it out. Other patients gather to see it as Howie keeps saying, "Bluebird."
Bluebird! Bluebird!
The other patients join in, chanting "Bluebird" in unison. For the first time in years, Doris steps out of her room to look.
Bluebird?
That night, Bess approaches Prot and tells him she believes he is the bluebird. Prot smiles and simply wishes her a good night.
You're the bluebird.
Soon after, another patient named Sal pulls Prot aside to ask about light travel, hoping it might help him escape the hospital. Sal, who ended up there due to his extreme sensitivity to people's odors, explains that Prot is the only one he finds bearable.
They all stank. I tried to tell him.
He wants to go to K-PAX with him. Prot tells him gently that he can only take one person back with him when he goes.
I'm afraid I can only take one person back with me when I go.
As word spreads, more patients begin to tell Mark they're preparing to leave for K-PAX. Concerned, Mark confronts Prot, warning him not to give the patients false hope.
I wonder if that's a wise thing to be promising patients in a psychiatric facility.
Prot assures him he never promised everyone a ride. Only one person can come with him, and he plans to leave on July 27th at exactly 5:51 a.m. When asked why he is going on 27, Prot mentions that it is a safety reason. Traveling at the speed of light needs coordination.
You're beaming back to K-PAX on July 27th.
That night, Mark wakes suddenly, struck by a realization. Prot arrived 4 years, 9 months, and 3 days ago, and on July 27th, it will be 5 years.
4 years and 9 months. Your years. Listen.
That is the day Prot would be leaving for K-PAX. Mark thinks something traumatic must have happened to Prot exactly 5 years ago. Rachel notices his distress and expresses concern that he's becoming too entangled in Prot's world. Mark insists he needs to get to the root of Prot's condition before the looming departure date.
I've got to get to him before that date.
Mom, what's happening?
On July 4th, Mark invites Prot to his family barbecue to expose him to a typical home setting.
He's going to be here any minute. I want you guys to just calm down, be yourselves.
Prot arrives with another patient, Betty, and her husband. After meeting Rachel, he hears the family dog, Shasta, barking and responds by barking back, apparently trying to communicate. Moments later, Prot tells Mark's daughters that Shasta gets upset when they hide her favorite shoe, and he also tells them not to sneak up on her anymore.
And she doesn't hear so well on her left side, so don't sneak up on her anymore.
During dinner, Rachel mentions to Prot that Mark told her that he doesn't eat meat. Prot, without saying anything, keeps piling up the vegan foods on his plate. After dinner, Prot walks through the house and notices family photos. When Rachel joins him, he points out a young man missing from the gathering. She explains that it's Michael, Mark's son from a previous marriage, and that the two have grown distant over the years.
How many marriages has he had?
Just the two.
Prot tells her that Mark was teaching him about the importance of biological bonds. When she asks if he has a family, he tells her there is no such thing in K-PAX. Rachel tells him he is missing a very important thing.
You don't know what you're missing.
He then goes to Make and thanks him for inviting him. Later, while pushing Natalie on a swing, Prot seems calm until the kids turn on the sprinklers. When Natalie invites him to play, he suddenly becomes distressed.
No, don't.
He tries to pull her away from the water. Panicked and forceful, Natalie yells at him to let go. Several men rush over to help but struggle to restrain Prot, who displays surprising strength. He finally settles down only after someone shuts off the sprinklers.
It's okay. No, it's okay, baby. Where's glasses?
Despite the outburst, Mark assures his colleagues that Prot isn't dangerous. He believes Prot was trying to protect Natalie from something only he perceived as a threat.
You're okay.
Still, with Prot's self-declared departure date approaching, Mark worries he could unintentionally harm someone or himself. He proposes hypnosis to better understand what might happen on July 27th.
He's a violent patient, Mark.
He's not violent.
When Mark tries to find Prot for the session, Howie jokingly says he's off exploring Iceland and Greenland. All the patients know this and tell Mark he will come back because he took his glasses with him. He wouldn't need his glasses in K-PAX.
Because he took his glasses with him, darling. When he returns to K-PAX, he won't need them.
Prot disappears for several days, but eventually comes back.
Where the hell have you been?
He insists he really did visit the Arctic regions. Mark remains skeptical and tells him the only way to prove his claim is to undergo hypnosis.
You could convince me beyond any doubt. It's called hypnosis.
Prot agrees. During the session, Mark asks him to recall his earliest memory.
I want you to recall the first experience that you can remember.
Prot describes a funeral, the father of a close friend who died after a workplace accident. When pressed for details, he says the man worked at a slaughterhouse. Mark moves the session forward in time.
I want to move forward in time now.
Prot remembers showing his friend the stars, saying that's where he was from.
Where are you from, Prot?
From the planet K-PAX.
He explains the boy understood constellations because his father had bought a telescope and taught him about space. Then Prot mentions that his friend called out to him when something awful happened. As Prot's heart rate starts to spike, Mark halts the session.
Read his body language, Mark. I don't think he wants to talk anymore today.
Later, driven by a hunch, Mark asks Joyce to search for slaughterhouses in rural areas with clear night skies, hoping the details might help him uncover who Prot really is. At the hospital, people argue about who is going to K-PAX with Prot. To end the dispute, Howie comes up with an idea.
To decide once and for all who will go with Prot.
An essay contest to help Prot choose who gets to travel with him to K-PAX. The patients take it seriously, each hoping to be the one chosen.
Would I get to take my Bible to K-PAX?
In a later session, Prot continues recalling memories tied to his mysterious friend, whom Mark now calls Pete, since Prot won't share his real name.
What's his name?
Not telling.
The year was 1985. Pete was just 17 when his girlfriend became pregnant. He feared he'd end up like his father, who died working at a slaughterhouse. Years later, Pete did take a job there as a knocker, the one responsible for stunning the cows before slaughter.
There's the guy that knocks the cow on the side of the head so it won't struggle while they slit its throat.
Despite everything, Pete married his girlfriend, Sarah, and they had a daughter named Rebecca.
Yeah, they got married, but she's no longer pregnant. Well, that was 6 years ago.
That same day, Mark hears that Howie tried to strangle Ernie, but surprisingly, Ernie seems at peace.
Son of a bitch, I love him.
Ernie, I don't understand.
He tells Mark that the experience made him realize he has no control over death, and he feels free from the fear that used to haunt him.
Dying something you have no control over.
When questioned, Howie says he was only completing one of the 3 tasks Prot had given him. He insists Ernie is cured now, and he will also be cured once he completes the last task.
Prot says one more task and I'll be cured too.
During their next session, Mark asks Prot to remember where he was on July 27, 1996. Prot says he was on K-PAX but felt Pete was in trouble, so he returned to Earth.
I sense something is wrong. He needs me.
Then, visibly shaken, Prot reveals Pete attempted to drown himself after something terrible happened.
Why does he want to kill himself?
As Prot begins to cry, Mark gently presses him for more, but Prot says Pete isn't ready to speak about it.
Has he done something he shouldn't have?
He doesn't want to talk about it.
When Mark offers help, Prot lashes out in panic, forcing Mark to end the session.
That he did something...
Mark attempts to calm him down and gently wakes him up. As Prot leaves, he drops his sunglasses and a pencil. Mark collects them. Later on the drive home, Mark notices something written on the pencil. The number appears to be a New Mexico area code, alongside the letters Salva. He asks Joyce to look into Salvation Army offices in New Mexico.
Salva...
They trace the pencil back to Santa Rosa, and from there, dig through local newspapers for any incident matching Prot's timeline.
Go to July 27th, 1996.
They find what they're looking for. In July 1996, a man named Robert Porter was reported to have drowned after a violent attack on his family.
His name is Robert Porter.
Mark travels to New Mexico and visits the local police department, where the sheriff shows him the case file. Robert had a wife named Sarah and a daughter named Rebecca.
Lived about 20 miles outside of town with his wife and child.
The officer takes him to the house that used to belong to Robert and his family. The officer explains what happened. While Robert was away, a drifter broke into the house, attempted to assault Sarah, and ended up murdering both mother and daughter. When Robert returned, he killed the attacker, then disappeared, presumed drowned, though his body was never found.
Snapped a grown man's neck like it was a twig.
Outside, Mark sees a broken swing set and a sprinkler, details that mirror Prot's flashbacks. The sheriff takes him to the river that Robert allegedly drowned in. He then notes that they gave up looking for Robert and doesn't care whether the man in New York is him or not.
If that boy you got back there in New York is really Robert Porter?
Mark returns home and tells Rachel he finally found what he was searching for, but he wishes he hadn't.
Wish I had.
On July 26th, the patients submit their essays to Howie for the final selection. Mark, preparing for what might be Prot's last day on Earth, calls him to his office and offers him a scotch.
Scotch okay, or would you prefer something more fruity?
He then says goodbye and wishes him well. He adds that he hopes to see K-PAX someday. Prot responds with a quiet suggestion. Before dreaming of other worlds, Mark should take more time to appreciate his own and his family within it.
As a matter of fact, I think you should see more of your own family.
Prot suggests Mark invite his son Michael for Christmas. He admits that no one on K-PAX would miss him if he left, but here on Earth, he feels that might not be the case. Mark tells him he doesn't have to go.
You don't have to leave, Prot.
Then, trying one last time to ground Prot in reality, Mark shows him a high school yearbook with a photo of Robert Porter. The resemblance is unmistakable. Still, Prot calmly insists he isn't Robert. He says he'll accept being Robert if Mark is open to the possibility that he really is from K-PAX. As he walks away, he tells Mark to take care of Robert. Later, Howie asks Prot for his final task. Prot tells him to stay on Earth and to be ready for anything.
And be prepared for anything.
That night, Mark stays at the hospital to see what will happen at Prot's exact departure time. Rachel also joins him there to keep him company. He wakes at 5:48 a.m. and rushes to Prot's room.
A minute.
The security guard watches Prot on the monitor, but the camera feed cuts out when Prot begins to move. Mark reaches the room moments later and is stunned to find it empty until he spots Prot unconscious, hidden under the bed.
Oh, God.
As nurses wheel Prot out, the patients watch in silence. Oddly, they no longer recognize him as Prot. Not long after, they realize Bess is missing. Her room is empty except for her essay, which simply says she has no home.
Bess went to K-PAX.
Prot remains in a catatonic state for weeks. During this time, Mark visits regularly, updating him on the others. Howie now works at the local library, and Ernie is preparing to become a crisis counselor, but Bess never returns.
People don't just disappear.
Eventually, Mark reflects on one of the last things Prot told him about the universe, that it would forever expand and contract, and that people would relive their choices again and again. Prot warned him to avoid repeating his mistakes the first time around. Mark takes that advice to heart and finally reaches out to Michael.
Whatever mistakes you make this time around, you will live through on your next pass.